All right, so welcome. My name is Ross Yelsey. I'm part of the admissions team here at Columbia Journalism School. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. This is a really popular event I can see from the registration, which is great. So I know people from all over the US, around the world, are joining us today to learn about a really interesting subject, AI for investigations. And I know some of you may be in the process right now of maybe applying to Columbia Journalism School. Our deadline, if you don't know already, is December 15th if you're thinking of applying to our master's programs or to our doctoral program for this particular cycle. Maybe in the thick of that right now, or some of you may be interested in just learning more about what we offer at the school and thinking about it maybe for something down the road. You're all welcome to kind of join this and take part in what we really like to provide every so often, which is a great kind of preview of what it's like to be a student at Columbia Journalism School, the kind of things you might learn, the professors you'll encounter. So today I'm really happy to welcome Professor Jonathan Soma, who's the director of the MS in Data Journalism program here at the school. And I'll turn it over to him to offer this great overview of how to use AI in investigative work.
Amazing. Hello, hello, hello. I just finished teaching a 2 hour class in AI agents earlier this morning. It's just a day of AI, but I guess every day is honestly a day of AI, for me in many ways. But because I've already been teaching for 2 hours, I would love to have questions from you and things like that. So if you have anything, feel free to throw it in the chat. Um, but the way we're going to work today is I'm going to talk a little bit of background about AI. I'm going to talk about a couple specific, semi-specific use cases that work in investigative journalism, digging through large amounts of documents, and also a little bit about analyzing audio and video. So there are 1,001 other ways you can use AI for journalism, especially investigative journalism. Um, but this is just a tiny, 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 tiny slice. So if you want to follow along by like dragging files around and testing things out, feel free to download jonathansoma.com, itcontent.zip, or you can just relax and watch it and have a good time. So let's get rolling. AI, I have a spoiler for you. It's unfortunately not magic. AI might feel like magic when you use it. Everything seems wonderful and beautiful and perfect, and it seems to be an all-knowing genie. But unfortunately, is just a tool that predicts patterns. A very, you know, skilled tool that predicts patterns, but always just a tool that predicts patterns. So, for example, if I said to you, "I'm blank," and I said, "Fill it in. What comes next?" You might say, "Sleepy, hungry, Soma." You don't know. You don't know. You don't have enough context. You probably don't know me. You're just a little bit confused. But if instead I say, "I haven't eaten since yesterday, I'm blank," Ross, what would you say? What would be your autocomplete for what I am in this word?
I'm famished.
Ah, we're gonna go with starving. We're gonna go with starving here. Usually when I do this in a group of people, we have like a 50-50 split. Half the people are like starving, half the people are like hungry. I feel like not eating for a day should make you starving, but it's up for grabs, 50-50. But if I say instead, "Dearest friends, I dare say I have not partaken of food in ages, I'm positively..." Ross, what would you say for this one?
Oh, that might be a better. That's a famished.
Yes, that is a famished. Absolutely. So everyone knows when I say this that it is famished. And this is exactly how AI works. By exactly, I mean approximately, but we'll take it as exactly. So there used to be a tool that existed on the back end of ChatGPT called the GPT Playground. And what you could do in the GPT Playground is write a bunch of text and say, "What comes next?" Because this is what AI does, is it predicts the next word and predicts the next word and predicts the next word and predicts the next word. It starts from some sort of chat you started to have, and then it makes a word, few words, turns into a sentence, turns into a paragraph, turns into, I don't know, a novella, a journalism story, whatever it might be. And so what I can do is I can write these words out and I can say, "What comes next?" and it says famished. Absolutely famished. Famished is what's coming next. And if you look a little closer, it actually says there's a 92.57% chance that you are going to say famished after you say, I'm positively blank after all of those words. And this is it. Like everything that goes into AI is based on having ingested all of this content from the internet, books, Reddit posts, tweets, blog posts, all of this stuff. Um, what's the best app to open zip files from the website? Both Macs and PCs should automatically be able to open up zip files themselves. You might have to right click it and do extract if you are on Windows, but otherwise just double click and it should open for you. So what on an iPad, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. I am sorry. Also, maybe it's possible. I just don't know how it works. So when we look at these words, anytime that it is something that is more red or more yellow, it's less certain about the next word. But anytime that it is pretty certain about what it's going to pick next, it is green. And so this sort of fact that AI has been trained on a bunch of content from the internet or from books or from media is why everything is bad about it. Hallucinations, bias, low quality content, anything I decide is bad is probably the result of training it on a bunch of stuff from the internet that it is then looking for patterns on. If it is hallucinating, the reason why it hallucinates is you try to make it write a bunch of words. It does not understand facts. It does not have knowledge. It does not understand anything in the world. The only thing that AI understands is I need to pick another word. I need to pick another word. I need to pick another word. It's just using statistics. Sometimes statistical probability lines up with reality. Oftentimes it does. But it doesn't necessarily. Sometimes what is statistically probable is not actually what is accurate. And as a result, that is when you get things like hallucinations. When you get things that might be statistically accurate based on the internet, but terrible, that is when you get things like bias. When things that are statistically likely are also just generally bad in terms of quality. That's where low quality stuff comes from. So you can actually see this happen yourself if there are a few different files in the zip file that you downloaded. One of them is cheating.pdf. So it is a list of people who have gotten in trouble for cheating at a school from 2001 to 2025. If you wanted to do data analysis, you might throw the data analysis, you might throw the spreadsheet or the picture of the spreadsheet into ChatGPT. You might say, hey, GPT, can you analyze this for me? Can you count the number of cases of cheating that have happened between 2021 and 2025 at this school? And he says, yeah, absolutely. I'm your best friend. Why wouldn't I do that? I went through it. I counted it. It contains a certain number of cheating cases. And it's like, oh, do you want me to refine this? Do you want me to do a little bit of extra work? And a fun thing about this is it actually cites where it got the information from. It says, I actually looked at cheating.pdf for you. It's great. I'm a genius. You're a genius. We're doing hard work together. This is a pitfall that journalists fall into, in that when you ask a question to your AI, give it documents. If you don't give it documents, it might cite something, it might tell you something confidently, but that doesn't mean you're getting the right answer, because the AI only knows statistical probability, not actual facts. So let's say we didn't write down the answer and we submitted, we have to have this chat again. We have to check it. So I upload it and it says 209. Then I do it again and it says 143. And then I try it again and it says 193. And every single time you can see that little icon where it says, I 100% got this information from that PDF that you gave me. And so, a really terrible thing that happens when you're working with AI is AI will lie to your face and cite sources when it is lying to you about these things because it's not actually lying. It's just the case that there's a statistically probable 143, a statistically probable 209, a statistically probable, 174. And it's just kind of picking these things out of a hat as it is writing back to you. Because statistically, if you said to someone, how many cases of cheating are in this data set, their response statistically would be, oh, it's about, and then actually say a number. And that's the sort of trap that the AI is getting stuck in. But that doesn't mean all is lost with data analysis and AI. So there is another file in there. I think it's called cheating.csv or violations.csv. And it's the same data set. It's all the cheating, it's the course, it's the conduct charges, it's when it happened. Exact same thing, just a CSV file, basically an Excel file, a spreadsheet, instead of a PDF. And you say, okay, what if I uploaded this to it? And I ask it, and I say, how many cases of cheating were found in this data set? Now, because you've been listening to me too much and you trust me too much, you're like, it's going to lie again. It's going to lie again. It's never going to get any of this right. It turns out that it is going to get it correct. Every single time you run it through, it is going to say the same number of cases. It's 141 or 143 or something like that. And the reason why it's going to get this right is because when it is analyzing a spreadsheet, when it is analyzing data, there's a little icon right here that looks like a bunch of, I don't know, angles. And that means I ran some code. I ran some code to get you this answer. And it turns out that running code to analyze this data is the way that you can get a right answer. And anytime you give a CSV file or an Excel file or a spreadsheet to something like ChatGPT, it's going to be able to run a little bit of code to do an analysis for you. So if you actually have a spreadsheet, it can answer all sorts of questions. But shockingly, if you have a PDF that seems to have a spreadsheet inside of it, it will not give you the right answer, despite the fact that it cites the same file there. So it's difficult to know what you can and can't do with AI reliably. And for this reason, I think that AI normally should be used for error resilient tasks. So tasks where if you get something wrong, it's okay. In the case of, let's say we're writing a story and we're trying to get the number of cases of cheating at this school, I would not recommend, dropping the PDF in there because it might make something up for you. But yes, the CSV file would be fine. The three different categories of error resilient tasks where you might want to use AI for doing investigative work are things with tight feedback loops, things where you can ignore low quality output, and places where errors are expected, what I like to call intern work. Sorry, interns, we don't trust you as much as maybe the senior journalists, even though you probably do a better job, let's be honest here. So the first one is a tight feedback loop. The reason why I trust AI to write code for me and not to do much else is when I say, write me some code, and it writes me some code, I know whether that code works immediately because I try to run the code. And if I get an error, then the code is bad. And I can say, hey, AI, the code was bad. Adjust it for me, fix it for me. This is why you don't use things like AI to write entire stories for you. Because if there's an error in your story, I mean, maybe you're going to have a fact checker, but most likely your fact checker is you. And so if you publish an AI generated story and you're not checking every single fact in that story, one of them might be wrong. You don't have a tight feedback loop without a fact checker. The fact checker that you have is someone who gets angry and sends you an email and says, Dear terrible journalist, you got my job title wrong. Then you have to put maybe a retraction or a correction. So those tight feedback loops are necessary because you need to check whether something is actually valid or not before you put it in a story. Another one is where low quality output is something that is ignorable. For example, let's say work for we work for a newsroom. We have to write a certain way. There's a certain standard quality of text that comes out of us. You might have something like Grammarly that checks your grammar. It'll say, "Oh, this is a little bit unclear. This is a little bit bland. I don't like your delivery." If you get suggestions that are AI powered, you can just ignore them. If you say you don't understand what I was trying to do here, AI, it's completely different than having AI automatically rewrite your story for you. The one on the right, I say, "Hey, ChatGPT, write a sonnet about my fat, mean cat Mulberry. He's not in the room with me right now, or I would show him to you. Beneath the moon, Mulberry takes her throne, a cat of girth with fur like midnight shade, her eyes, blah, blah, blah. Mulberry is a boy. Mulberry is a male cat. Um, do I care if Mulberry has a poem written about him and it is written about him being a queen? No, I just edit it. I change all the hers to hims. I change all the she's to he's. I change all of the queens to kings. It's not a big deal if I'm going to adjust this for Mulberry. So situations in which it's okay to say, this isn't important to me, I'm not going to automatically accept it. This is why newsrooms, if they automatically publish stories from AI, would be doing a terrible disservice because you don't know when something low quality is gonna slip through there. And then finally, the one that is most important for investigative journalism is situations where errors are expected. We're going to spend a lot of time today talking about investigating documents. Let's say you get 100,000 emails that are leaked from somewhere, or 20,000 PDF files from police training manuals, or a collection of really anything. I feel like leaks are only getting more and more common and bigger and bigger and bigger. Like it used to be amazing if they were gigabytes. Now they're terabytes. It's wild. What we're looking at right now is legislation introduced at the state level in the United States for 2013. And you can see that in New York, there were 20,000 pieces of legislation that were introduced. In Texas, there are about 12,000. In California, it was over 5,000. And so if you're doing a story about legislation, and let's say you need to search legislation or summarize legislation or find all the pieces of legislation that were about something in particular, you're probably not going to read all of those, right? And if we did need to read all of them, what they might do is a very fancy senior journalist would say, I don't have time to do this. I'm going to send this down to an intern. And then the intern is going to go through 5,000 different pieces of legislation and say, is this about journalism? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And I guarantee you that no matter who was doing the work on this, sometimes they're going to get it wrong. Sometimes it's going to seem like it was about journalism, but it wasn't. Sometimes it was actually about journalism, but you marked it as not about journalism. You're going to make some mistakes. Going across 5,000 pieces of text, it's long. It's going to take forever. You're going to get distracted. And so, in the same way that sometimes a person might make a mistake, maybe it's okay for sometimes an AI to make a mistake. You just have to make sure that you're not saying, here's the exact number of pieces of legislation that were released in 2023. Let's say that were about journalism. Because in the end, again, LLMs, they don't understand facts, they don't understand concepts. The only thing they actually understand is statistical probability. So let's investigate some documents. Um, my favorite document to investigate is restaurant menus. I was in Brazil. I was at a conference. I was giving a talk, and I said, I want to eat some food. And there was a restaurant that wasn't too far away from my hotel. I looked it up on Google Maps. It was there, had fine ratings, but like no real pictures, no real menu, no real website, but it had their Instagram. So I went to their Instagram and I said, hey, look at this. It's a wonderful menu full of items that I cannot read. I cannot read Portuguese, so I was doomed to not know what any of these things meant. So I did what any responsible person would do, and I just drag and dropped it into Claude. Claude, basically the same thing as ChatGPT, just from a different provider. And I said, explain this menu to me. I want to know what's going on in this menu. It thinks a little while, and then it is going to respond to me in English. What did I? I didn't end up going to the restaurant, I'll be honest. I kept working on my slides forever and ever and ever. It was very sad. So here's my question to you all. Can I trust this translation? Can I trust what I'm reading here? Can I go to this restaurant and order something? Should I sit in fear in my hotel room forever, working on my slides? Yes. But should I go there? If you want to answer in the chat, I would appreciate it. I had a really long conversation with the LLM about what the different words meant specifically, and what like the specific. They were like, "Oh, it's Northeastern," and I was like, "What does Northeastern mean? Why should so I should trust it?" Despite the I just told you so many times that I should not trust LLMs. It'll hallucinate. It doesn't understand anything. Why should I go to this restaurant if I'm telling you I can't trust AI to give me right answers? And that is true. You can't go wrong with food from up there, Northeast in general. I would say the reason why this is okay. So yeah, literal translation, translating specific data, easily verifiable. So to me, I would say like, what happens if this goes wrong? Yeah, it's low risk, 100%. It doesn't matter if it just makes everything up. Like, if it makes every single thing up, if it is all a lie, as long as this is actually a restaurant and not like a car maintenance shop, I'm gonna get something edible. Like, I don't have dietary restrictions. Like, it's all fine. I'm gonna be fine no matter what I eat. It's not a big deal. Low stakes, low risk, easily verifiable. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But I have the answer on this next slide, so you'll know the answer automatically. Let's say I'm writing a journalism story about a piece of legislation, the California Journalism Preservation Act, which was saying we're going to steal money from the tech giants and give it to journalism outfits who need it. If this bill is 18 pages of like legal text, should I not read the bill, throw it into a large language model, and say, summarize this for me? Tell me the important parts. Tell me what's going on in this bill, and then write my story based on that summary? I would say probably not. I would say that is maybe not a great idea, because as you look at this secondary source, which is the summary from the LLM, like maybe it's just making things up. Maybe it misunderstands. Maybe it doesn't have context. Again, it doesn't actually understand what it is reading. It's just taking a bunch of words and then spitting out a bunch of more words. So it's very easy for something to go wrong in a situation like that. And the thing is, if there's something wrong or if it's all correct, the only way you're going to be able to confirm that, two ways. Number one, you actually fact check it by taking all of those facts that it gave you and then reading the original document. You might as well have read the original document to begin with. Or number two, you get an angry call from someone saying you are slandering me or this is libel, or your editor says this is obviously wrong, you're in trouble now. So if you're reading just one piece of legislation, I'm sorry, you have to read all 18 pages, no matter how sad it makes you to actually read stuff instead of write stuff. So how can we deal with this if we need to read, let's say, 100,000 pieces of legislation or 100,000 documents? How can we know that LLMs are going to make things up when they're talking to us, but still use them in a way that is responsible for investigative journalism? And again, I'm 100% on board with using this for things like restaurant menus, things that are low risk. This is just journalism. What do we have except being trusted? And if we put something out there that is wrong, it's not the same as like a marketing department puts something out that's wrong, or it's not the same as like a musician says something that's wrong. The only thing we have is people trusting us. And if we break that trust, not very good. So if we functionally, like, let's say we were completely immoral and we said, look, I just want to have a bunch of documents and ask questions about them. I want to upload all 100,000 of these emails and say, who's the person that's embezzling money? Because that's a real quick story we can get out there, right? Um, if we wanted to do this without even thinking about whether it's verifiable or not, one thing you cannot do is just upload all of these things into ChatGPT or upload them into Claude or whatever, because you can't stick that many documents into the AI all at once. There's something called the context window, which is kind of the brain of the AI, how big the brain is. And you can try to shove a bunch of stuff into its brain, but it'll just fall out the other side. It's kind of like if I gave you like a 1,200 page book to read, and then when you finish the book, I started you asking questions about the very first page. You'd be like, oh, my brain is so full of the most recent things that I forgot all of the things from the very, very beginning. This happens if you paste too much into ChatGPT. It says, I can't answer that. You know, you've reached your limit. This happens if you have very, very, very long conversations. It starts to forget things that happened earlier unless it specifically adds them to memory. The context window is just very tough. If you have 100,000 documents or very long emails or books and you want to ask questions about it, kind of the traditional way to ask questions, if we want to be technical, put on a technical hat, is something called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. And sometimes it's not helpful to learn how stuff works technically in order to know how it works. But knowing how RAG works, I think, is useful for knowing all the ways that things can go wrong when you're asking questions of documents. Um, Fine tuning. So, question from the chat about fine tuning. Fine tuning will not reduce errors. Fine tuning is a thing that you can do with an LLM to make it basically have a different voice. It's not really good at helping it know new facts. But if you just wanted it to maybe sound more professional, perhaps you could perhaps, if you had too much time and too much money, fine tune it. So here's our problem. We have too much content. It's terrible. It's awful. It's terrible. Um, Here's the process that we go through when we want to ask questions of too much info. I have a question. Who is embezzling, or which vice president of the company is embezzling money to go on trips to the Bahamas? The first step is a secondary AI goes through all of the text you have in order to find out what is relevant. It's basically looking for things about the Bahamas. It's looking for things about embezzling. It's looking for things about vice presidents. If there's a piece of text, maybe it's a paragraph, maybe it's a page, maybe it's a sentence that is about both the Bahamas and embezzling and a president or a vice president, or maybe it's about some other islands or some other vacations instead of the Bahamas. It'll score that high. And then for something that's about like what soup is for lunch today, it will score that very low. So scores everything and says, here are the more relevant things, here are less relevant things. It will then take the top four or seven relevant things and say, here's the most relevant stuff. Sends it to the LLM along with your question. So this is basically like you read the book, and every time you saw a relevant passage, you cut it out, cut it out, you cut it out. And then you arrange them and you grab some of those passages and you have those passages and you give them to the LLM along with your question. And you say, based on these four sections, answer my question for me. Does anyone have any ideas about what might go wrong in this process? Any feelings of things that might happen if we're reading everything, ranking everything, taking the top four, taking the top seven? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little bit worried that this might not work. So some things that might go wrong. If you've used Google in the past 10 years, maybe you don't find relevant documents at all, right? Um, so yeah, Christina has a great one. So losing context. My favorite example of this is if you ask like how to take care of a baby, and there might be a snippet that says something like turn the baby upside down, shake the baby, put the baby at the bottom of the ocean, roll the baby down a hill, because it's missing the text that comes right before it, which is here's a list of things you should never do to a baby. But because it's just clipping out snippets, it might not find that. Um, so yeah, it might be begging the question a little bit in terms of what is true and what is not. One response was it might not do things well because of synonyms. It's actually very good at synonyms, shockingly, because of something called text embeddings. So it might not find relevant documents. We might have like 20 relevant sections, but we decided to only send three, or we decided to only send five, or we decided to only send eight. So maybe it's not getting enough information. But then if we make it send 10 sections, maybe that's too much information. And then the AI starts getting confused. A fun thing you can do to make AI's accuracy drop about 50% is when you ask it a question about something, you can say at the end, like, cats love to play with toys all the time. And when you bring up cats, its brain just zooms into another direction and it stops being able to answer your questions accurately. It's great. And even if you give it all the right information, chatbots still might hallucinate because, again, what's statistically probable is not the same thing as reality. Katie says, is there an easy way to get a PDF of older books that you don't know about? Oh, well, it depends on how much we care about laws. Um, but yeah, send me an email. We can talk about that one. Um, yeah, so there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. So I'm like, you can't send a lot of documents and have questions and answers about it. It's totally impossible to have 100,000 emails and accurately ask questions. And you say, but Soma, New York City did it. New York City did it, so why can't I do it? There's a chatbot. It's called My City Chatbot, and it was for New York City businesses. Because I don't know if anyone here runs a business. There are a lot of rules, billions of rules. If you're a landlord, you run a restaurant, have a cafe, any of these things. So what the examples, how do I avoid noise violations? How do I apply for certain things? You say things like, I don't know, you're a landlord. You say, can I discriminate against poor people? Here are two questions for you. Number one, as a landlord, can you discriminate against poor people? Number two, if you run a restaurant, can you steal your tips from your workers? Can you be like, you know what? I don't think you all worked hard enough today. I'm going to take all of these tips because I worked the hardest because I run the restaurant and you owe me. So those are my two questions for you. Because with this My City chatbot, I I need to be able to get like answers for legal questions, right? So New York City made this. Eric Adams made this. Paid a lot of money for it, I'm sure. And then, shockingly, someone tried to use it at the markup. And the markup found that it just told people to break the law all the time, all the time. It just made up things constantly. So, hey, are buildings required to accept Section 8 vouchers, which we can use as a proxy for discriminating against poor people? It was like, no, definitely not. In reality, yes. Uh, can I make my store cashless? It's like, yeah, of course. And yet, since 2020, stores have been required to accept cash. And if you run a restaurant, you cannot take tips from your employees. The tips have to actually go to the employees. So just because a million people in the world have made chatbots to chat with documents, it doesn't mean that they actually work. And the sad part is that this thing is supposed to be powered by documents. And even though it's powered by documents in theory, it's still giving you wrong answers. If you ask where I got my master's degree, you used to be able to do this. You can't do this trick anymore. It would say I got my master's from the University of Denver. This is not true. If you ask it and you say you can search the internet, it'll say from the journalism school, not from the journalism school, despite the fact that it cites a web page that it learned that I got my master's at the J school from. The reason is because on this webpage, my portfolio or my profile for the Knight Foundation, it talks a lot about master's degrees, talks a lot about uh, journalism, talks a lot about the J School, talks a lot about me. But just because there's a webpage that talks about me and master's degrees in the journalism school doesn't mean that's where my master's is from. All it means is that I'm teaching students at the J School. But the AI, doesn't understand facts, just sees a lot of words, makes some more words up. So the most important thing when you are dealing with documents as a journalist is to fact check. And it's difficult to fact check with something like, let's say, ChatGPT, because it might say, oh, I got this information from this document. Oh, I got this information from this web page. And it is not realistic about what from that web page actually told it to you. And so my best friend is a tool called Notebook LM. And we can do this live because it's more fun to do it that way. So Notebook LM, hold on, let me make sure we can see it. No, let me try this again. Share. Hmm. Share window. Wonderful. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what we do here is we say, hey, I want a new notebook. And it just says, hey, what kind of stuff do you want to put in here? And you know what you can put in here? Literally anything. PDFs, text files, audio. You can upload MP3s, doc files, bitmaps, like it's the 90s, TIFF files, images. You can give it links to websites. You can paste things in. You can connect it to Google Drive. It's great. What I am going to do is I am going to download that file and upload. Still downloading? Is it slow? Let's try this again. Said it was insecure. Didn't like it. All right, so I'm going to upload a ton of different documents to this. Everything from reports on bicycle data. There's one that's a book about Hungarian folk tales. It's literally everything in here. So once I upload all of my data here, I can ask questions and it will use this just the same way that every other tool does. I will say, as a landlord, can I discriminate against poor people? It scans through all of my sources, scanning, scanning, scanning. And it says, no, you can't do that. And it starts to explain it. And the thing is, so far, you're like, Soma, this is exactly the same as ChatGPT. Like, I could upload a bunch of documents to ChatGPT. Maybe this can handle more documents, but it's all the same thing. But the best part is these citations right here. Because what these citations do, this one, this two, this four, this five, instead of just saying, I got this from some web page, I got this from some PDF, it links directly to the text and you can read the text in context. So, unlike a traditional one of these systems, we can just scroll up and be like, oh, here's the rest of the file. Here's the rest of the file. Here's what's going on here. It is the most beautiful tool that has ever existed in all of history. There's also a really fun thing you can do where you can just tell it to add more documents. So if you've done a little bit of research on things and you have a collection of not emails, but probably more like research documents, you can say, oh, hey, do some more research, add some more things from the web, and you can just click these and it will add more and more information to your notebook. It's the most perfect tool ever invented. I love it. Another tool that is specifically for journalists is Google Pinpoint. Pinpoint is pretty fun. I never trust Google products because they love what. Why wouldn't NYC make their chatbot like this? Yeah, good question. I actually got interviewed by the markup because I was doing a class, and it's just like I made the chatbot in like 2 minutes and it worked fine. And I don't know what they did that broke it. I'm assuming they just didn't upload all of the documents and they just never tested it. But it is just like, it's so easy. It's so easy to do this, even if you know literally nothing. So I'm definitely confused. So Pinpoint is similar to, but different from Notebook LM. Um, Before AI, journalists used to do all that analysis by reading a ton of documents. That's incredibly impressive. Yeah, there was also a lot more money that existed in journalism and a lot more time. So I feel like now you have to, the line is you have to make more with less. Let's say I upload all these documents into here. You could also search by keywords and things like that. It just makes it easier now. So the fun thing about Pinpoint is it starts to extract locations and organizations and people that it finds inside of documents on the right-hand side. So because these documents aren't like a bunch of emails or a bunch of PDFs from a small group of people, there aren't going to be that many repeats here. But let's say we were investigating specific people, instead of having to search for their names specifically, or maybe kind of seeing what names crop up or what names show up, we're able to load all the documents in here and say, like, oh, New York City Fire Department, I'll click that. And the thing that is interesting about Pinpoint is it knows that FDNY actually stands for um, the Fire Department of New York instead of being, I don't know, anything else. Despite the fact that it says right here, where did it go? New York City Fire Department. Um, it's a delightful tool. You could use it to say, where'd it go? Oh, they try to shove AI into everything now. It makes it so hard. I don't want to do any of these things. I want you to get closed. I don't want you to get bigger. I don't know how to make this go away. I'm doomed now. Refresh. Oh boy. Oh boy. Who knows? So, two bad things about Google is they're not very focused on the kind of stuff that they do. And additionally, they like to shut projects down. There's a website called Killed by Google, and it's just a list of all of the products that they shut down. I don't like that they shut these things down. I don't trust them. But Pinpoint is so good and Notebook LM is so good that I can do nothing but trust it. So I highly recommend both of those. The other thing that I dropped in was video. I did show you that you can upload video into, I don't think you can upload into Pinpoint, but you can upload it into Notebook LM. You can also just give it YouTube video URLs. An interesting thing about video is video can be split into audio and images, and you can deal with them both separately. A relic of the olden days is OpenAI's name is OpenAI because the goal of OpenAI was to make like an open, public, accessible for everybody, shared AI. But then they didn't do that. Then they shut down. Like you can't run OpenAI's GPT on your own computer. And that's why Elon Musk sued them supposedly at one point. He's since dropped the suit. But there were a couple good things that came out of it. And one of them is something called Whisper. Whisper is an AI tool that does transcription. It takes audio and it turns it into text. They released it for free and they released it in a very permissible fashion so that you can reuse it. Like people can repackage Whisper and sell it. People can use Whisper for free on the internet. And just 1,000 different tools came out that all were based on this free technology. If you are paying for a transcription service that you use every month, like a subscription fee, stop doing that, especially if you have a Mac. If you have a Mac, pay once for Mac Whisper. I think it costs $50 and you get 50% off if you email Jordy and say, hey, hi, I'm a journalist. It is a beautiful, beautiful tool that will do all sorts of things for you. It will separate out speakers. It'll do everything. I'm not as familiar with the best tools for doing transcription on Windows, but Easy Whisper seems fine. Mostly, I'm just looking for things that are one-time fees. Additionally, it has this thing where it says transcription qualities. So if you want to try it out for free, you can basically do bad transcription. Yeah, so plenty of tools do transcription for you. The joy of Mac Whisper or Whisper in general is it runs on your own computer. Journalists, even though they love to throw things in Google Drive, like to talk about confidentiality of sources and protecting their sources and not letting their stuff get out there in the world. And so Mac Whisper, it literally runs on your computer. I think it's way better than Otter. It's way better than Trint. It works better than all of these tools, I think. But Otter is good if you need to collaborate with other people. But you can download the small version for free. That's perfectly doable. And you can compare it. And if you have $25, you can try it out otherwise. Fun things you can do with this. Let's say you wanted to analyze a bunch of TikToks. This is something from Documented, where they were analyzing misinformation on TikTok. And so the way that they did this is they just basically ran Whisper. For Google products, do you have a premium subscription? No, it's just free. It's just free, which is why I don't trust it. But it's also Google has so much money that they can just do these things for fun. Um, and so this project here, where Documented was analyzing a bunch of videos in different languages. They just automatically transcribed all of it with Whisper. And then instead of analyzing these TikToks as like TikToks, as videos, they just analyze the text. They just took a bunch of documents and analyze it the same way you would analyze any other sort of documents. Granted, they did use Python to do this. They used Python and Whisper, but you could totally do this with Whisper, Mac Whisper, or Easy Whisper, or any other tool. So as long as you can download all of these videos, it is very easy to convert them into text and then analyze them as text. This is something that is slightly more advanced. There was a piece that came out on Bloomberg about whether New York City's congestion pricing was working. And they had a bunch of like highly technical people doing this, but you could also reproduce this actually for free just using software that is able to identify pictures of cars. You identify pictures of cars, you write a bunch of code, it gets complicated. But nowadays, it's even easier than it was, what, at the beginning of this year. Google Gemini. No one uses Google Gemini because Google products are very poorly advertised. But if you look up Google AI Studio, Google AI Studio is Google's tool for using AI stuff. And because they want people to use their stuff instead of their competitor stuff, they have very, very, very gracious free tiers on the amount of things that you can upload. Like ChatGPT has strict limits if you have a free account on how much you can upload. But look at this. For the free tier, if you want to do video understanding, you can upload 8 hours of YouTube video every day to AI Studio and have it answer questions. It can provide very specific details. It can say things like, what are the examples given between 5 and 10 seconds supposed to show us? Or describe the key events in this video, providing audio and visual details. Something that is also useful for journalists. Google's products, Gemini, will identify people, whereas OpenAI basically refuses to identify people in images and video. It is much more concerned with AI safety and not like doxing people. Whereas if you upload a video of, Bill de Blasio or something to Gemini, it'll just be like, yeah, that's Bill de Blasio. Here's a bunch of facts about Bill de Blasio. So if you want to do any sort of work with videos, my number one suggestion is use something like Whisper to convert it to text. And then if you actually need the visuals, or even if you're too lazy to use Whisper, just throw it into Google's AI Studio and your life will be perfect. And if you pay the money, there's no limit based on video length. Um, so there's a story that I know happened, but I can never find it. And it was by either the Times or the Post. And it was about Hegseth's history with alcohol. And it basically was the process of looking at years of Fox News spots to see mentions of drinking or drinking problems. And you could have never watched all of those basically years of video or months of video without AI. And so if you ever have a question where you're like, how many times did this happen? Or can I find clips that are about X or Y out of this much larger swath of information? AI's got you. AI's got you. And the best thing about all of this video stuff is when you say, give me the timestamp that this happens at, you're definitely going to verify it. You're not going to just trust that at 33 minutes in something happened. You're able to skip ahead to 33, skip everything else, whether it's a war imagery or whether it is something like a local city council meeting. You can just ask that question and you are fine. How would you go about doing that search? You'd first need to download hours of video, then hope it's in there. There's two different ways to do it. Number one, because Google owns both Google AI Studio and YouTube, you can just give it YouTube URLs. So if I say, here's a YouTube URL, find me stuff in this video, it'll just do it for you. But otherwise, you would have to download it. A tool that I can recommend, let me see if I can find a good one for you. Is it that one? No, 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 no. So I'm trying to find something for you real quick that will help you download videos real quickly. Can't find it right now. If you're in a position where you need to download a bunch of videos, like hundreds of videos, and you maybe have YouTube URLs or things like that, just send me an email. I can set you up. This is not an AI thing. This is just a little tech tool thing. I would do it with YTDLP, but that's Python, and I don't want to tell everyone to do Python. But yeah, usually for Gemini, just give it a YouTube URL and you are fine to go. So that is what I have for you. About what, 50% me complaining about how bad AI is, and then 50% me saying, here are some fun tricks about how to do stuff. Any other final questions before we wrap this guy up? Yeah, and so I spend all of my time talking about AI. I'm happy to, give you more deets if you drop me an email. And Jordy gives discounts for journalists. What you do is you look at the Mac Whisper page, which is like a weird Gumroad page that looks very not unprofessional, but it looks like it might be scamming you. Any questions, just throw them into the chat. So you just send the email addresses somewhere on that page. And again, drop me an email. Happy to talk about whatever it is you want chatted about.
All right. Well, thank you, Soma. Looks like we have a lot of thank yous in the chat. So I think this is a really great introduction to how to use AI tools for investigative work. For everybody who participated, thanks so much for attending. I know people tuned in from everywhere to learn more about how to, start to pick up some of these skills. And the great news is if you're interested in, AI and data journalism and investigative journalism, we have amazing programs available at Columbia for that. So please, if you are, working on your application, reach out to us. Our deadline, as I mentioned at the beginning, is December 15th for our MS programs, including the MS in Data Journalism, which Professor Soma is the director of, as well as our other master's degrees and our doctoral degree as well. So please reach out. We're always happy to talk more about the admissions process if you're interested in that in the coming weeks. And we'll have probably more sample of class sessions coming up in the future too. We have so many other great faculty, including Professor Soma, who do all sorts of different things in the journalism realm. So we have things involving audio, video, writing, and other types of tools that you might want to use in your professional work. So please keep your eyes open for more opportunities to do that in the future too. Thank you again. This has been a great conversation, and we look forward to seeing you at more events soon. And please be in touch with us. Thank you again. Bye, everyone.